What is up, YouTube? It's me, John Avenger, once again, and welcome to another Sci-Fi Month 2 review. This is a movie that I don't have, so I'm going to just talk about it, what I remember from it, and it is the sequel to the 1987 action sci-fi classic that is Predator. This is the sequel from 1990, Predator 2, and this is a direct sequel. I will say this right now, wholesale. This is the true sequel that Predator deserved, not Predators or anything else afterwards. This is a really solid sequel. I don't know why. This was actually the first of the Predator films I saw after AVP and AVPR. I saw this one first, then I saw Predator, and then I saw Predators. So that's the order I saw them in. And this is a solid sequel. It's bloody. This movie was actually so violent that it was going to be an NC-17 when it came out in theaters in 1990, but they trimmed it down to an R. But it's still very bloody. You know, the Predator hacks people to pieces. It has a lot of new gadgets like the net that goes on a guy's face and it squeezes his skin like this. It's really good practical effects. It hangs people naked, from the gangs. There's like two gangs of like Spanish people, El Scorpio and the Jamaicans, I believe. They're attacking each other, and the Predator just goes to town on all of them because they're in their territory. It's basically the first film, but in a city, the jungle, the urban jungle of Los Angeles, California. I think it takes place in 1997. I believe the future, and I'm like, well, that's already passed because it's 2016. So but it's not doesn't have to be accurate to the time. It's still an awesome movie. Like people say, oh, Arnold didn't come back. If Arnold had done this, it would have flopped, and he would have been his career would have tanked like instantly in the '90s. But he was doing Total Recall, and then he after that Terminator 2, which is one of the best sequels ever made. But this has Danny Glover. I have no problem with him as a lead. I enjoy the Lethal Weapon films. I liked him in Gone Fishing and his voice in Ants, and I liked his performances in Angels in the Outfield, the remake, and all that. I'm a fan of Danny Glover. I like him as an actor. I like seeing him on screen kicking ass. He's got a strong voice, and he does everything that he can. He's not trying to top Arnold. Let's face it. Glover is a more trained actor. He has no accent. He's a badass, and he has an awesome gun, and he does more than Arnold does, especially taking the Predator. He does it all by himself too, and he's not covered in mud like Arnold in the first film. He's covered in like soot or whatever at the end of the film, but he fights the Predator by himself. He doesn't need help, and he's a good lead. I don't know why people said that he's a bad lead. I had no idea why. The film gets hate to this very day. The critics were not kind on it, and the film didn't. It underperformed, and it was released in November of 1990, which was a bad time for it. It should have been a summer release. It's a good sequel. I don't think it's bad. There's some cast members I'm not a big fan of. Ruben Blades, I'm like, he was there. Didn't really care for him that much because he's barely in the film. Mary Katina Alonso, once again, not a fan of that actress. I liked Gary Busey. I liked Bill Paxton, I think, was in the film. Yeah. I liked, the film is well directed. It's well shot. I think Stephen Hopkins directed this. He did Nightmare on Elm Street 5. This is one of his better films because this is a sequel that's worthy to the first film. Nightmare 5 is a bad sequel. Just the film, it's short. It's not 2.5 hours. It's like an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and 50 minutes. It's an action. It's very fast paced. As soon as you get to Los Angeles, the movie it goes and it doesn't stop. It keeps going. It's very fast paced. Danny Glover, when he's on screen, he means business. There's a lot of shootouts. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of crazy Predator action. The Predator looks great here. It's once again played by the guy from the first film. Uh, I think it's Kevin Michael Hall or something like that, or Kevin Peter Hall. Yeah, something like that. And he's good in the film, he's still menacing. They made him talk more, but it didn't bother me. I mean, the effects still look great. I mean, people dismiss it as a shitty sequel, and I don't understand it because the film is very underrated. It should have been a huge hit. There should have been a Predator 3 before they did Predators. That would have been better than a freaking movie like 10 years later that was lame. Well, actually, no, it was 20 years later because 1990, 2000, yeah, 20 years later, and we get a disappointment. But I'll talk about that one next time. This film is awesome. I think it's a really solid sequel. If you see this back to back with the first movie, it doesn't diminish the first movie because they don't kill off Arnold's character, Force Awakens, and it doesn't copy the first film like Predators, and it does its own thing. It's its own movie. It can stand on its own 2 feet. It's a fun movie. It's got a good lead. It's got good action. You can see what's going on. There's no shaky cam. There's no bad CGI. It's really well done. And it's a film I have to get on Blu-ray someday. I mean, I haven't gotten it because the 2 disc DVD set is like out of print, and the Blu-ray you can find it at like a Best Buy or something, but it's pricey. So I got to get Predator 2. It's an awesome movie. I don't think it deserves the hate. It really doesn't. And I'm glad that it got a special edition. It deserves it. It's a good sequel. No Arnold, no problem. It still has a kick ass lead. And, I still think the film it will stand the test of time. Predators, I can't even remember what happened. Here, I can remember it. And it follows the first movie very well. It's like you see the jungle, and then you get the urban jungle in the city, which works because it's a different location and there's buildings and streets and cars and everything, and it's less isolated than the first film was. But even though the first film is better, I still think this is a good sequel, and it just gets so much unnecessary hate, and it's a good movie, and that's all I can say. So that's my review of Predator 2. It's a good movie. I would say just go in with minimal expectations. Don't think, oh, it's going to surpass the first film. I think it's just as equally solid as the first film, and it is what it is. It's a fun action movie, sci-fi, because it's an alien attacking a bunch of people, hoodlums in the streets of Los Angeles. So it is sci-fi as well, and it has a cool ending. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. It's badass, and I don't think it needed to be treated the way it did by critics. Not every critic hated it, but a lot of them did it, and I don't understand it. But anyway, I defend the movie because I think it's awesome. Because I saw it once, but I still remember it. Anyway, that's my review for Predator 2. Thanks for liking, subscribing, commenting, and I will see you guys in the next one.